out this afternoon. The rain has moved in on us, but we got a dry building in here, so hopefully the weather won't get to us that way. And we got a few minutes in order to sing songs, to pray to God, to remember our Savior's death on the cross, and then study a little bit from His Word. Hopefully things we have to say will be beneficial to you this afternoon. So there was a movie that came out, you may or may not have heard of it, in 2018, and the movie was called Interview with God. I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but the movie is about this journalist who was struggling. I think he had been over and seen some war areas, and he came back to the United States, and he got a tip from somebody that said, you can have an interview with God. And so the whole gist of the movie is this interviewer, or this reporter, would meet at this location and get to interview with God. And as the movie goes, there was a character that supposedly played God, and he got to sit down with him face to face and ask him questions. Well, that's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to interview God that way. We're not going to be able to sit down face to face to see Him while on this earth and interview Him and ask Him questions. But that's an interesting concept. And there was a poll or a survey in USA Today. Maybe you've heard of USA Today. They put out these surveys and polls. Well, they had a survey that asked, if you could get in contact with God, if you could ask Him a question and get an immediate answer, what would you ask Him? And so there was, again, a survey. There were several questions that people said, well, this is what I'd ask God if I had an opportunity to speak to Him. Now, what about you? What if you had an opportunity to speak with God? You got questions you think, well, I think this is my number one. I got this question I'm going to ask Him. I probably have several. But we've got top 5 questions from this survey about what people would ask God, and that's what I want to talk about this afternoon. The top 5 questions from this survey, if people had a chance to talk to God, what they would ask Him. And hopefully you'll see as we go through this, most of the questions that people said they'd ask, we've got the answer to. The Bible answers them. All the questions that people say they would ask. So let's spend a few minutes talking about that. Let's talk about questions for God, and we'll talk about the top 5 in this survey. All right, then, the most popular question, the most common question that people said they would ask God if they had a chance to talk to Him would be, what is my purpose here? What is my purpose here? You know, there are books sold by the millions every year. People, what's the meaning of life? What's my purpose of life? I've got to have a higher purpose. There's got to be more meaning than we just go to work and then come home and then wake up and do it all over again. There's got to be some meaning and purpose to my life. And so 34% of the people that did this USA Today survey said, what's my purpose here? That's what they would ask God. This question's been around a long time. This isn't a new thing. Isaiah said in Isaiah 43 and verse 7, it said, even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory, I have formed him, yea, I have made him. So now this is God speaking through the prophet Isaiah, and Isaiah said, so this is God speaking. He said, I've created him for my glory. I've formed him. Yea, I've made him. So what God said? Well, God said, I created people for His glory. He created people for His glory. That's what our purpose is, to glorify God. Now let me ask you a question though. What if I was an inventor? I'm not an inventor. But what if I was an inventor and I just came up with contraptions? And what if I told you, come here, I got to show you this contraption that I invented. Then you come and look at it, you see it working, you say, this thing is neat. It is working like a charm. And then you look at me and say, you're smart. This thing's really neat that you made. It sort of builds me up. I've sort of got some glory based off the thing that I made. But what if while you were watching this thing that I made, pieces and parts just start flying everywhere? It starts going erratic. Then you look at me and think, you need to go back to the drawing board, buddy, because what you're making is not that good. Then I kind of don't seem so smart. Then that kind of makes me look bad, doesn't it? What I submit to you is, we were made to glorify God. That's what He made us for. And so when we operate, when we conduct ourselves the way that God meant for us to, then we bring glory to Him. Now God doesn't ever look bad, so the opposite of that, well, if I don't do what I'm supposed to, does God look bad? No, that's on me. But when we operate the way that we're supposed to operate, the way God designed us to, it brings glory to Him. And that's what the prophet Isaiah said, that God formed us for His glory. Solomon, of course, in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon was trying to answer the question, what's my purpose here? What's my purpose here in life? Remember that? Solomon asked the question, and basically the whole book of Ecclesiastes is him chronicling, is that a word? him trying to figure out, what is my purpose being here? I mean, what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of it all? And he chronicles everything that he goes through to try to figure out what's the purpose of being here. He tried riches. He tried pleasure. He tried accomplishments. You know, he just tried it all. Anything that can make him feel good or feel special about himself. And then, as you know, as he came to the end of the book, in Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 13, he said, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. So let's just boil it all down. This is what it's all about. Fear God and keep His commandments. This is the whole duty of man. That's what Solomon said. All this other stuff, riches and all these pleasures and all these accomplishments, they don't last. They don't give me a sense of purpose. Solomon said the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep His commandments. So, what are you here for? What am I here for? What's my purpose in life? Well, my purpose in life is to fear God and keep His commandments. To glorify Him. He's the Creator. That is my purpose. And so, that question. Now again, we said 34% of people said if they got to speak with God, they would ask Him, what is their purpose here? Well, the answer is provided to us, isn't it? The Bible provides the answer to that question. It's sad because if folks would open up the Bible and look at it and read it, they'd get the answer to the question they were asking. And that's most of the questions that we're going to list here. But what's my purpose here? What's to glorify God? All right, what about the second question? So in this survey, the second question, 19% of the people said that they would ask this question. And the question is there existence beyond the grave? So 19% of the people polled in this USA Today poll said, if I got to speak with God, I'd ask Him, is there existence beyond the grave? You know, Job asked this question in Job 14 and verse 14. He said, if a man dies, shall he live again? So Job was thinking along these lines. If a man dies, is he going to live again? That's what Job was thinking about. Job then came to the conclusion that yes, there was existence beyond the grave. Remember what he said later on in Job 19, verses 25 and 26. He said, for I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that He shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God. So I don't know that Job had the total picture of what it's going to look like, but he knew that after I die, after my life ends on this earth, I don't cease to exist. There's going to be more. There's going to be something else. I'm going to live on after my life here upon this earth. And so he understood that part of him was going to exist after his life was over. Now, so we're answering the question, is there existence beyond the grave? We've got to point out, though, yes, there's going to be existence beyond the grave. But I'm afraid that the people that ask that question may not be happy with the existence that they're going to have and the existence that they want it to be beyond the grave. Remember, Jesus said in Matthew 25, verses 31 and 33, and then we'll look at verse 41. Jesus talking about the judgment day. All right, maybe I'll be able to talk. But Jesus on the judgment day scene, He said, when the Son of Man shall come in His glory, and all the holy angels with Him, then shall He sit upon the throne of His glory, and before Him shall be gathered all nations. He shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And He shall set the sheep on His right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall He say also unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire. That's it. Prepared for the devil and his angels. All right, so on the judgment day scene, Jesus said, yeah, there's life after the grave. There's going to be existence after the grave, but the majority of people are going to be those people that are not going to go into everlasting life. He's going to separate the sheep from the goats, and notice He said there, to those on the left, depart, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. So I'm afraid that most of the people asking the questions, is there existence after the grave? The answer is yes, but there's either one or two routes that you're going to take. And unfortunately, the majority of people are not going to be those that are saved. So, is there existence beyond the grave? Yes. And so, the sensible answer is then, since we know there's going to be existence beyond the grave, we're going to exist. There's either going to be a reward or there's going to be punishment. We need to be, the sensible thing would be to be preparing for that existence. We're either going to be punished or we're going to be rewarded. So we need to be preparing for that. That's the second most popular question in this survey. third most popular question in the survey, now 13% of the people that were polled asked this question. They said, why do bad things happen? Why do bad things happen? I'm actually surprised that this wasn't up higher on the list. There's bad things that happen all the time. You see, bad weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, regional accidents. You see these tsunamis in some countries that come and just wipe out places. There's terrible diseases and sicknesses that are going on in the world. We even know some of our own family members deal with those kind of things. A lot of times it seems like bad things happen to good people. And so you might ask the question to God, if you have the opportunity, why do bad things happen? Why would you let something bad happen, like whatever situation I'm dealing with? 13% of the people asked that. In Genesis 3, verses 17 to 19, if we go back all the way to the beginning to try to answer this question. Remember, in verse 17 here, it says, and unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return into the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. We're familiar with those verses. I mean, we understand that story. We know what happened there. But I would submit to you the first answer is, why do bad things happen? Well, bad things happen because we live in a sin-cursed world. Adam and Eve sinned. They brought sin into the world because Satan tempted them. They ate of the tree that they were not supposed to eat of. Sin entered into the world, and so bad things started to happen. Notice that God told him, well, you're going to have to deal. Cursed is going to be the ground for your sake. It's going to be a sorrowful thing, working and trying to eat of it all the days of your life. So there's going to be troubles because of your sin, basically, is what God told Adam and Eve. Everything was ideal before they sinned. It was a perfect environment. But because they sinned, now, as a result, we all live in a sin-sick world. So the first thing I'd say is, the first general answer is, bad things happen because we live in a sin-cursed world. But you know that we can go further. Sometimes I may suffer because of somebody else's sin. Sometimes maybe I have to deal with the consequences of somebody else's wrongdoing. So no, we've all sinned. We've all contributed to sin being in the world. But sometimes somebody's actions directly affect me. Remember in Luke 13, it says, there were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans, whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. And Jesus answered and said unto them, suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above all the Galileans, because they suffered such things? All right, get the picture of what's going on here. Okay, so Pilate had killed some of these Galileans. Pilate had killed some folks. And so then Jesus asked them the question, basically, did they suffer because of their own sins? And he says, I tell you, nay, they didn't. They suffered because Pilate killed them. Pilate killed them. They weren't sinners. They didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they were sinners, but they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't suffer because of their own wrongdoing. Pilate killed them. And so Jesus said, they're suffering because of what Pilate did. Don't we know that happens all the time? You hear stories all the time on the news. There's a drunk driver that's hit somebody. A drunk driver's caused an accident. So that person sinned, but somebody else was affected by it. Somebody broke into a home and stole something. The person that owned the home didn't do anything wrong. They were broken into. The thief sinned, but they're affected by that. Somebody shot somebody. Maybe the person that was shot didn't do anything wrong. They were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. But the other person sinned, and then they're affected by it. And so what we're saying is, why do bad things happen? Well, generally bad things happen because we live in a sin-cursed world. But the second thing we'd say is, bad things happen because sometimes I'm affected directly by somebody else's wrongdoing. Hopefully you get the point that we're making there. But we see it every day. Innocent people are suffering because of other people's sins. But you know, the last thing I'd say is that sometimes I suffer because of my own sin. In 1 Peter 4, verses 15, it says, but let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf. Now, typically we talk about the last part of this, if you're going to suffer, suffer as a Christian. And don't be ashamed. That's a good thing. But notice what he said at the beginning. Let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. So notice what he's saying. I can suffer. If I choose to murder, I can suffer. If I choose to be a thief, I'll suffer because of that. Or if I'm an evildoer, I'm going to suffer. And so Peter was saying, let none of you suffer while doing those evil things. Don't suffer that way. But what happens when I choose to do evil? Well, I'm going to suffer because of that. I'm going to suffer because of that. So, when we go back to try to answer this question, why bad things happen, probably 80% of the bad things that happen are due to either my own evil doing or somebody else's evil doing that affected me. And then the other 20%, I would say, is that's by chance. By chance, because we live in this world. People get sick. A lot of people get sick. But we weren't intended to live forever. We weren't intended to live forever. I don't know if I'm going to get this tickle out of my throat or not. And so people get sick because of that. We have to deal with illnesses. We have to deal with struggles of life because we weren't intended to live forever. And actually, I think those things help us to focus more on God. I think it helps us to teach us to number our days. Because I'm not going to be here forever. And if things were just perfect in life here, then maybe it'd get me to thinking, well, I'm just going to be here forever, and I don't have to worry about anything. But when I go through struggles, it helps me focus on making it to heaven. So why do bad things happen? We live in the same cursed world. Other sin, maybe my sin, has caused bad things to happen. All right, the fourth question, and 7% of people surveyed asked this: is there intelligent life elsewhere? Is there intelligent life elsewhere? Okay. 7% of people said if they got a chance to talk to God, that's what they would ask. Have you ever heard of the SETI program, S-E-T-I program? You may have never heard of that. But that's a program that actually our government was spending millions of dollars a year on, and it's called SETI, S-E-T-I, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. They suspended that program several years ago because it was costing millions and millions of dollars, and our government was trying to cut back. But then we had people to privately fund it to keep it going. And basically all they were doing was putting antennas up and shooting messages out into space and then waiting to see if we get some responses back. They were looking for intelligent life elsewhere. What's interesting is that most of the prime movers behind that, those private funders, are atheists. And I think that's kind of humorous because they're looking, maybe I can send out a radio wave and it'll come back to me and I know there's intelligent life out there. But they're not smart enough to look around the world and realize there's intelligent design right here. They can't even believe in God, the intelligent design that we see, but they're hoping that some radio wave comes back from off in the deep recesses of space and we'll know that there's intelligent life out there. So, is there intelligent life elsewhere? Well, the answer to that is yes. God's out there, isn't he? God's intelligent life. God designed this. And so there is intelligent life out there. It's God. Now, I know that their question, they weren't asking about that. What they were asking about is there aliens, is there people living on different planets? That's what their question is asking. And I'll just tell you that the Bible does not address that. The Bible doesn't address that. So, we can get all bent out of shape and try to think about, is there, people living on Mars? Is there people living on another planet? But we just don't know the answer. I mean, I can give you my opinion, but the Bible just doesn't address it. So, what should we do? Should we worry about it, or should we just stick with what we know? Well, I think we should just stick with what we know. There may be life out there somewhere else. There may be life in another universe. I don't know. It's possible God can do that. But what I do know is that there is a God. He did create this earth. He did show intelligent design here. In Psalm 19, verse 1, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. And so it's a foolish thing to look out at our world today and say, well, yeah, there's no God. This all just sort of happened by chance. That's a foolish thing. There's a God. He did create the world. And so what we need to do is look for his intelligence and try to be in good standing with him. We need to honor God. So people want to know, I guess it's a burning question, is there intelligent life elsewhere? We don't know. We just don't know. But what we do know is that there's a God. And so we just need to seek to try to glorify Him. I think that's the only question that's asked that the Bible really doesn't answer. Sometimes I think we get caught up worrying about things that we don't need to know the answer to. Right? All right. Okay. Now, number 5, the 5th question in this survey was, how long will I live? How long will I live? So the 5th most asked question, only 6% of people, but that was enough to be top 5. 6% of people surveyed said that they would ask God, how long will I live? Have you thought about that question? Would you really want to know that question? I'm not sure that I want to know the answer to that question. I think if I knew, it'd be like being on death row and you'd be counting down the days. Right? You'd just be counting down the days. And I've got X amount of time left. And I just feel like it'd be like counting down the time. And I think that'd almost be punishment. And I actually think it's in the wisdom of God. He doesn't tell us that. You know, if I knew how long I was going to live, I think I'd be tempted to just go out here and live any way I want to. If I knew I had 20 more years, then I could go out here and live it up for 19 more years, and there at the end I'd try to correct it all and repent. But the wisdom of God shows that we need to be ready because we don't know. We need to be ready at all times, and I need to live right, to be prepared to go. Even if today is my last day, I need to be ready and prepared to meet God. I don't need to be thinking about, oh, I've got so much time left, and so I'm sort of thankful, I think, but I don't know the answer to that question, and I think it's in the wisdom of God that we don't know. So what does that mean for us? We don't know. But even if it's a really long time in our minds, in God's mind, it's just going to be a short time that we're here upon this earth. Remember what James said in James 4, verse 13? It said, "Go to now, ye that say today or tomorrow, we will go into such a city and continue there a year and buy and sell and get gain." We're familiar with stuff like that. We make plans. I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to get this done. We're going to go here. We're going to do these things. James just said, "Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away." We just don't know. That's the bottom line, right? We just don't know. I mean, today could be my last day upon this earth. I just don't know. But we make plans. I plan on going to work tomorrow. I plan on doing different things, but I just don't know. Even if it's a really long time, in my mind, James said, life is just a vapor. It's just going to appear for a little while and vanish away. Life is short. It's real short. And so, we don't need to be worried so much about, well, how long will it be? We just need to be worried about being right whenever the time comes that our life here is over. And so I think, again, the wisdom of God is that we don't know how long we'll be here. And so we have to always be ready. Okay, there you have it. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I added a 6th one. The top 5 questions. What's my purpose here? Is there existence beyond the grave? Why do bad things happen? Is there intelligent life elsewhere? How long will I live? And then I added the last one because 12% of the people had no idea what to ask. 12% of the people surveyed said if I had a chance to meet God face to face, I wouldn't have a clue what to ask Him. And I think we need to make a point based on that because that speaks volumes to me. And so, as we've seen, people that have asked some of the questions didn't know the answer because they hadn't looked in their Bible, because the Bible gives the answer. So most of the questions that have been asked, the Bible tells us. But there's 12% of the people that were so out of touch with spiritual things and their spiritual side that they don't even have sense enough to ask a reasonable question of God. And so I think that really says something. 12% of the people said, well, if I had a chance to talk to God, I wouldn't even know what to ask Him. I'm sure that if you had an opportunity to talk to God, you probably have a list, long as your arm. There's a whole lot that I'd like to ask, because there's a lot of things I don't know. And I'd like to ask, I'd like to get the answer to those questions. But 12% of the people didn't even know what they would ask God. And so as we said, we're not going to get an opportunity. I'm not a reporter, and I'm thankful, because I don't like doing interviews. But we're not going to get an opportunity like that movie where we get to sit down and ask God questions. But what we do have is God speaking to us every day if we'll listen to Him. You know that? God speaks to you every day. We just have to open up His Word and listen to what He has to say. And a lot of life's questions that we might come up with, we've already got the answer to. It's just, are we willing to go seek it out and find the answer? So here on earth, we're not going to get a chance to sit with God face to face, but we've got the answers provided to us. We've got the answers to life's most important questions. Will we seek to find them? All right. Sorry about not being able to speak. I don't know what happened there. Got choked up. So, questions for God. What we said was that there was a survey at USA Today. I'm actually surprised that a publication will even pose anything like that, because there's so many people that disregard God. But those questions people wanted to ask about life. So the most important question is, for us, are you in a good standing with God? That's the most important question. And so I can't answer that. I don't know your heart, but God does. Have you done the things needed to be in a good standing with God? If not, let's do those things. Let us help you do those things. If you feel like you haven't been living up to the way you ought to a Christian life, then let's help you get those things back on track. That's the most important answer, is are you in a good standing with God? Are you ready to meet Him? We need to be. Think about those things. If you have a need, we'd ask for you to come forward while we stand and sing this invitation song.
Zion's call sweetly rings over land and sea, bidding us look to realms above. While the light from the throne shines for you and me, let us listen to the call of love. Zion's call is ringing, coming from the throne of love. While we hear it ringing, let us heed the call of love. On the road to the goal, burdens we must bear, but we have help from realms above. We receive courage new when we kneel in prayer. Let us listen to the call of love. Zion's call is ringing, coming from the throne of love in heaven above. While we hear it ringing, let us heed the call of love. While we tarry below, there is work to do, and our strength cometh from above. As we labor and wait, we must all be true. Let us listen to the call of love. Zion's call is ringing, coming from the throne above in heaven above. While we hear it ringing, let us heed the call of love. Perfect love.
I want to thank Brother Josh for 2 fine lessons today, one this morning, of course this one this afternoon.